Ready? Exposure of delicate things to bright sunlight causes them to shrink and decay. You will see this in the case of ferns. Of course, rocks who have no life don't mind exposure to sunlight, but delicacies like ferns or flowers shrink at the exposure to sunlight. It is the same with human beings and their feelings. It has become worse since great corporations like Google, I mean great in the sense of being large, like Google or Facebook, Meta, X, they collect information about us. And as a consequence, they accumulate a dossier on each individual, allowing them to the opportunity to evaluate the psychology of that individual and subsequently to manipulate individuals and consequently whole communities into ways of acting that are against their interests, but are in the interests of Google or Meta or the government or X for that matter. Nowadays, it's a reversal, a topsy-turvy we call it. 10 years ago, transparency was for governments, for corporations, for actions of government, for considerations of policy. Transparency sought to make what the government does or what corporations do behind closed doors, in secret, against the interests of the people. We sought to make them transparent, but now it's topsy-turvy. Governments are not transparent, nor are corporations, nor are the policies of government. But what is transparent is human beings, individuals, all over the world, all over the Western world in particular, for all of their details, and even their bio is now accumulated into corporations which they trade amongst themselves for the manipulation of us to their interests. For example, is to how to create a need in a person. Consequently, that person responds to the need that's been created within them. Advertising is creating within a person or within whole communities a sense of insufficiency. And the only way to ameliorate that insufficiency is to buy or purchase or be involved in the product that's been put before you. Now, that's clear to us that advertising is there to create a need that's not there in the fundamental sense. I don't need a new car every year. I don't need an electric car. I just need a reliable car that will last 10, 20 or 30 years. Electric cars, while being psychologically attractive, are actually a burden on the public, for they can only exist in a world where the government subsidizes their production and out of our money. If they were competitive, also the manufacturing and disposal is well worth looking at. So we've been manipulated into hunger after an electric car when all we need is a simple, reliable, stylish motor car that doesn't need replacing every year. A minimum lifetime of 10 years. My car is 2002. It's 21 years of age. It's a very comfortable, familiar, scratched, and it's a fine car. Yeah. Encryption, cash, Bitcoin, friends that you can speak to rather than mediated relationships, mediated meaning Facebook or TikTok or whatever, but an actual friend, a living, interesting, fascinating, complex human being. That's the first element. The next element, of course, I mentioned cash. The next element after that, cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is fascinating and it will bring about many changes and many benefits to ordinary human beings everywhere. I call, when I use the word ordinary in relationship to human beings, of course, I mean the divine ordinary. To be ordinary is the very epitome of human being. To be ordinary in every way. In that sense, I mean ordinary, to have good relationships with people, to foster your family, foster your own understanding. Where Bitcoin will help with that, use Bitcoin. Where cooking and offering hospitality, which is sacred, helps, offer hospitality. These will, for the moment, allow the growth to fullness of being, to be a complete human being, not to be a mediated human being, manipulated by government and corporations, dependent for certainty upon the utterings of authority. The certainty you have is your relationship with your friends and your family. That's certainty. Look after those, and the rest will begin to look after itself.
Yes. Is there anything you want to add?
No, just I would like to express gratitude. That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for everything you are doing.